I'm not the help. Okay.
When I was 6 years old, the worst thing in the world happened to me. There I was, at my birthday party at putt-putt golfing games, about to blow out the candles on my koala bear birthday cake, when my younger brother ran up in front of me and blew the candles out instead of me, robbing me of my birthday wish. How dare he? So I did the only thing I could. I hit him as hard as I could, and I ran away screaming and crying. Little did I know that this was the very beginning of the vast conspiracy the universe would start against me. The next year, when I was 7, we had stopped in Amsterdam on our way back from Israel to go to the Anne Frank house, and we passed a piece of graffiti that said Louis Puig on it. And Louis was what my older brothers used to tease me with. Louis, Louis. And you know what my mother did? My horrible, abusive, cruel mother? She laughed. And the more I cried and screamed, the more she laughed and laughed. So I did the only thing I could. I screamed, I hate you! I wish you weren't my mother! And I cried and screamed and ran away. And it kept going. Everybody kept wronging me. In elementary school, my friend Gil Salou called me a terrible name. And when I was running after him to chase him, Kenny Hamburger got in my way to block me. Deny me my rightful vengeance. So I did the only thing anybody could do. I took the pencil that was in my hand and I stabbed him in the back. And it barely broke the skin. But guess who they blamed? Guess whose fault it was? My brothers used to have a nickname for me. They would call me the Spaz because of my dramatic outburst all the time. But I was innocent. It wasn't my fault. Everybody was wronging me, and I was angry. I was angry at my parents for loving my popular, athletic younger brother more than me. I was angry at the world for making me an awkward kid. And I was angry at all the people who had ever made fun of me, and so help them if they got in the way when the Spaz emerged. And I know by now you're probably thinking, Leo, you had such a rough childhood, but you're so stoic about it. You're an American hero. But it got better. Things improved, right? They didn't. In high school, we were coming back from a field trip, and there I was, just trying to innocently listen to Manic Monday by the Bengals on my Walkman, no homo. And my friend Amir would not stop pestering me. Leo, do you look at that girl's ass? Leo, do you look at her butt? Leo, did you tell me about the time that I had fingered this girl? Blah, blah, blah. Leo, Leo. And he would not stop bothering me, and I couldn't hear my song. So I did the only thing that any sane and rational person would do. I took my Walkman and I hit him in the face with it. And okay, I knocked out 2 of his teeth. But guess who they blamed once again? Me. And then when I entered my teens, I discovered a better art form, an ancient Jewish form of martial arts that had been passed down for millennia, from generation to generation. And I got to test it out on my friend Katie. My friend Katie, who I'd spent night after night listening to her whine about her ex-boyfriend, who all of a sudden stopped calling me back and didn't return 4 of my calls. So I tapped into this vast reservoir of Jew guilt, and I left her a voicemail that still lives on to this day in my memory, in its beauty. I said, hey Katie, I guess you were too busy to call me back. That's okay. I'm just glad I wasn't too busy to spend the whole night consoling you the evening that guy date raped you. But that's okay. You know, I guess you find out who your real friends are. And anyway, you know, it's ironic that you're always talking about these two-faced bitches, but you know, I guess you are one of them. But I just want to let you know that I'm not angry with you. I'm just really disappointed in you. And it worked magic. It was beautiful, the sort of magic that only happens when you mix a Jew with a guilt-starved Catholic. She left me several sobbing, crying messages, and I ignored them for a few days just to let it sink in, to let the real pain emerge. And then finally, I accepted her well-deserved apology. Because after all, why would you hit somebody when you can leave them alone, sobbing in their bed at night, staring at the ceiling, thinking of what they had done? But at that point, every time the Spaz won, I had a feeling, a nagging feeling that even when I win, I was really losing, that something was off. But nothing changed at that point. A couple years later, I was living in Amsterdam, and I was in love for the first time with Jan. And I called my mother up to tell her, and she said, "Don't even think of bringing him home for your sister-in-law's sister's wedding, because it will embarrass the entire family. And if you ever come home to visit, you have to stay in separate rooms, and it's not just because you are one of the homosexuals. It is because you're not married," and I would tell this to all my sons. And she knew fair well that there was no way I could ever get married. So I plotted my revenge, and over the next 5 months, I sent her the most hurtful, caustic emails I could think of. I told her that I wasn't really celebrating the Jewish holidays. I didn't believe in God anymore. I detailed the sumptuous feast I ate on Yom Kippur, sketching out the multiple desserts I had. I told her that I'd met this really nice guy from Jews for Jesus. They had some really interesting things today. And I really wanted to just talk to them and see what they're all about. But then everything changed when I got an instant message from my younger brother in Amsterdam. All it said was that he finally did it. But I knew what it meant. My crack-smoking older brother, who was a 2-time felon, who had spent the last 15 years making my parents' life a living hell and bankrupted them, had finally ended it. And my dad I learned later my dad had found him that morning with the plastic bag over his head and the helium tank from the Hemlock Society. And when I went home, being angry was the furthest things in my mind, because I knew my parents were angry. They were angry at all the things they didn't say, of all the conversations they didn't have, and they were just tormented. And I just felt like the most important thing in the world was to do anything that I could to possibly take some of that away to help them heal a little bit. And the Spaz were the furthest thing from my mind. And I don't think it was instantaneous, but I think looking back later on, I think subconsciously I just realized that, you know, this life sucks, and there's enough hurt and sort of pain in this world to go around, and all I was really doing with my outburst was adding to it. And it was just time for the Spaz to go. And nowadays, you know, the Spaz is mostly gone, but I'm not gonna lie. You can still find me some drunken night on the streets of Brooklyn, screaming up at my ex-boyfriend's window because he allowed me to walk from the South Bronx to Harlem by myself at midnight, because I insisted on it, because it was so much faster than waiting for the 6th train. And of course I got jumped by everybody in Harlem and in the South Bronx. But you know what? And he could have done nothing to stop me, but it was still his fault. And so there I am, screaming up at his window as loud as I can, and his neighbors are yelling down at me, and people are throwing things, and dogs are howling. But I just have to get it out. And I know deep down that the truth is, I'm not really mad at him, I'm mad at myself. But if I admitted that, I would have nobody left to blame.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much. No,